change the ignition on my 78 Firebird. And to get things started, first thing we have to do is we got to remove the steering wheel. And by doing so, we have to remove, you see these screws, there's one here, and there's one on the other side. Once we remove that, I'll be able to pull off the front part of the steering wheel, and then we can go about taking the steering wheel off. And then once we do that, get in here, this ignition right here, we're going to be taking this off and putting a new one on. So when we get to that part, I'll tell you the steps for that. So I'll be back once I take the front part off. Okay, so I'm just about to take out the last screw, which if you can see here, it's right in the back. So I'm just going to turn that last screw off. Alright, be right back. You can see here. And you can see that the wire for the horn is still connected, so all we have to do is disconnect that wire. Let's see if I can pull that off. Okay, so the wire's off. That's for the horn. Now as you can see, I got the front piece off. There's the connection for the horn, and that's where your 3 screws go right there. So that down there. Alright, the next step is now we're going to have to take off this nut and the retaining ring, and then we're going to add the steering wheel removing kit, and then once we get that hooked up, we'll pull the steering wheel off. That will be the next step. Stand by. Okay, so we took the clip off. So there's the clip. Take that off, and then we have to take this nut off. So what we're using is the what size is that? 13/16. 13/16 for your ratchet size, which is the same as your spark plug. So that's the one I use. So once we pull this off, now we're going to have to use the removal kit for the steering wheel. So I'll put that up and then be right back. Okay, so we have the steering wheel removal kit put on. So all it is once you hook it up, you just keep turning this, and eventually it'll pop the whole steering wheel off. So let's pull this off. Okay, so first part of the steering wheel is off. We'll just leave that hooked up so when we put it back together. Okay, so there's the steering wheel. So now we just got to pop this cap off, which is just a flat drive screwdriver. We can pry it off on each side here, and then once that's off will be the I had to make a special tool in order to get this little O-ring off that you can see right here. So this little ring actually goes way in the back, so in order to get that off, I made a little I don't know, I guess you can call it some kind of tool, I guess. Anyway, what it does is it goes over the top right here like that. And you can see how much of a distance it is off. That way, I put the nut back on, and then when I do that, it pushes in on this to give you room to pull out that nice little ring. A couple flat top screwdrivers work pretty good to get it off. So now once that's all off, I should be able to pull this whole piece out, and I'll be back. Okay, so just a little bit of wiggling and able to pull that front piece off. So there's the cover. So that's off. So make sure that when you put it back on, it looks like a little heart on the left. Make sure that the heart stays on the left when you put it back on, that you don't put it on backwards. Okay, so there's the little heart. Now it'll go back right there. So the horn will go inside that little heart. Alright, so let's take that off. So there's the ignition inside. The next step is to pull this whole kit out. So there's a screw right here that we have to take off for the blinker. Make sure you take off your 4-way flasher, which I already did, but it's just a Phillips screwdriver. And then we got a couple Phillips screws in here to take, and that whole housing should come right out. So once I'm there, I'll be back. Screw, this screw, and the one that's behind the blinker housing. So all you have to do is push down, lock it in place, and now you can remove that screw that is right in there. So now I should be able just to pull this whole piece out. So a little piece at a time. Okay, so as you can see how that goes in. going to need 2 hands here, so I'll be right back. So I pulled it out just enough. As you can see, there's some wires hooked onto it. In order to get this out any further, you'd have to drop down the whole console for the steering wheel and look underneath. There's some wires that you can unplug to actually pull that whole housing right out, but we don't really need to. So the whole idea is there's the ignition. I can just press on this little button here and pull the ignition out, or sometimes inside here, as you can see, it's sealed. I believe that is supposed to be open, so I will tap that out with a flat tip screwdriver and get back to you. The next step we have, if you look inside here, so here's the ignition that we're going to be replacing. Inside here there's a little slot you can see. Well, that's usually covered over with the whatever, it's made of aluminum or whatever, but this spot right here, it's usually not open. So I took the screwdriver and a little hammer, just gave it a couple good taps to break through the other ignition. So you can see this is the new one, and this is the old one. So they look pretty close. So let's just hope they fit. So here we go. So press the little button here on the side. So I got the new ignition. All I did was push it in. As you can see, it's locked. So that little indent button that's on the side of the ignition is actually in there. So she's nice and locked. Let's put the key in her, and we got power. Awesome. And they even got accessories, which I didn't have before. Beautiful. Okay, so that's how to change your ignition. The next video will be how to put it all back together. Thanks for watching.